ended up having to go back
Yes.
to an old version of Firefox in order to get this thing working. I don't know. It's weird because it said I needed to go to like a more current version and just to download the plugin, but the plugin wouldn't go right. So then I have to go back and download a previous version of Firefox, and then I can actually have it started here. So now let me see if I can go ahead and start my Hangout now. Like,
All right, I sort of got through what I had to say about the duels. There wasn't really much.
I don't think it's gonna let me. It's not gonna let me go back. Like I can't start my own version. That stinks.
Well, we'll get it worked out over the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you have to say so far about the duels that happened tonight?
It's pretty neat. Chase Elliott wins it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I know a lot of people probably are gonna say that, you know, with them lining up it was boring, but it's like we were saying when we were watching it. Sort of, I mean, it's basically just make sure your car makes it to Daytona for the 500 and
right.
Yeah, so I was saying before, I don't really judge how the 500 will be off the duels, you know, because like we were saying, you know, it's survive,
yeah.
So there isn't really and there's not really much controversy either. Most of the crashes were just single car spins, you know, with the arrow loose or whatnot, and so there's not really too much out of it. There were no fights like Danica versus Denny.
Right. Yeah. Nothing really too like interesting going on other than Alex Bowman and his duel. He started off the night by just going to the very back of it, which was pretty bold call, but honestly, it was the smartest thing for him to do because he's still on the pole now for the Daytona 500. I remember 2011, Dale Jr. was on the pole for that race, and that's back when they still practiced before the Daytona 500 and before the duels and stuff. And then he ended up crashing in practice during the week, and then it was like, it's over. And then he ended up wrecking with Robbie Gordon, and of course Trevor Bayne won it. So
well, that was a good feel-good story, at least. So
yeah, that's true. But looking forward to the weekend going up for the rest of the weekend. Truck Series racing back tomorrow.
Yeah, that race always seems to have one like giant crash in it where you're like, oh my God, how did this happen?
I think the Truck Series race is probably going to be the best racing of the entire weekend.
Yeah, I think that the 500 too. It's like I was saying before, it's like for so many years the 500 was sort of almost, it was like the worst race of the weekend, like 2012, 2013, around there when they were lining up or they only could make two lines, and it's like I think this weekend, at least with the racing, even if the truck race is better, there's still that build up, that like feeling of anticipation leading up to it.
Yeah, that's very true. You do have a good point about that. And then we got the Xfinity Series race also after that.
Yeah. Do they still have the rule that you can't bump draft around there, or did they get rid of that?
I'm not entirely sure on that one. I know I was looking in the entry list. There's 6 Cup Series drivers going to be in that race.
Only 6? Wow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Austin Dillon in the 3 car. We got Daniel Suarez in the 18. Joey Logano's in the 22. Chase Elliott's in the 88. Eric Almirola's in the 98. Gosh, who's the other one? Oh gosh, I want to name 5. Who is that other one?
I feel like you're always safe with either Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, or Kyle Busch, one of those 3.
Brad and Kyle's not even in it. Gosh, who's the other one that's in it? Shoot.
Might be able to.
It's gonna bother me. I better check my phone here. I'm gonna go to the app here and look.
Yeah,
if I don't, it's gonna bother me the rest of the night.
You're gonna be sitting there like 3 in the morning.
Kyle Larson. That's
Kyle Larson. Okay.
Yeah, he's in it.
Yeah, because for so many years there, it was like, Junior was in it, Tony Stewart was in it, and then you had sort of the mid-level guys back when Kenny Wallace used to be in Cup. He'd be in all of them, and
right.
So I like that it's going back to just basically just Xfinity guys, or like I keep calling them Busch guys, they sort of get their chance to show on a national stage what they can do, even though it's not against, all the Cup guys. They can sort of prove themselves, basically.
Right, right, right.
So I was after this, we were sort of talking about the Clash. I was just sort of saying how I was pleasantly surprised with it because
Yeah.
it seems like I was saying earlier, it seems like every year they're like, this new rules package, it's revolutionary, it's gonna make everything better, it's gonna do this, it's gonna do that, and then you just see the same stuff you've seen the last 5 or 6 years. So
Right.
at least the plate package, I personally think is the best plate package we've had since the Gen 6 came in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier tonight. It really makes you think of more like a 2000 style of plate racing right now.
Yeah, the way you can just, because for a long time they had that problem of the buffer of air. I was saying earlier, it's like magnets.
Well, yeah, the error issue is still a little bit of an issue there because we saw a few wrecks tonight because of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Was you?
oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think ever since they started doing the two-car tandem, they've had that problem of once they get on like the left rear, whether it just be touching it or just, air around that, taking an air off the spoiler, they just spin around really quick like tops.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Um, yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, like, you know, throughout the tomorrow's going to be our, I guess, our best look at how this is going to be in a bigger pack style. I mean, we saw the Arca race, but Arca.
Yeah.
Um, but tomorrow with Truck Series race might be our best idea because that'll be more like what 30 drivers, whereas in the Clash we only had 17 drivers, and then obviously in the two duels only like 20 cars out there. So tomorrow in the Truck Series race probably be our best chance to really get a better idea of this, format. And I haven't even had a chance to see the trucks. Do they have that same like low to the ground look to them as the Cup Series cars?
I haven't seen much of the trucks either. I've been sort of focused on what stuff I can see with Cup when I had the chance to.
Yeah.
But they seem no matter what body style it is, who the drivers are, the trucks always manage to put on an amazing show. It doesn't matter what it is. Ever since I started watching it, there hasn't been a year the trucks have just put on a boring show at the plate tracks.
Yeah. And speaking of like, this is completely off topic here, I guess, but before I come on here, I literally ended up blocking a troll on my channel who come on there and he started getting real mad and defensive and he said, well, you must be a Jimmy Johnson fan or something like that. I'm not even I'm an Earnhardt Jr. fan, Bowman fan, and he comes on there. First of all, he's like saying you're I'm not gonna say the actual word. You're dumb if you think Chevy's gonna be winning a lot this year, and he's saying how Chevy might get 5 wins this season. Well, they won a duel tonight.
Yeah, and they looked really strong in the Clash when they were racing up there.
And they've looked good in preseason testing. I don't know why people would think Chevy is going to do terrible this year. I mean, have you ever seen anybody just come out with a new car and do awful other than Toyota in its first few years? But they didn't really have any good teams switching over to them at that time.
Not really. I'm just a little cautious when I try and say how I think they'll do, just because the last few years they have been a little off. Toyota has been pretty dominant since about mid 2015, and then Ford got their act together finally last year, with more than just the 2 Penske cars. But I can understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, Chevy always manages to find their way back into the fight. It doesn't matter if it's something to do with the car or drivers or the tracks or whoever it may be. They always manage to get competitive cars out there one way or another.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna look up something here and try and figure out like what manufacturers did like the best overall in like the in terms of like wins and stuff here.
Okay. I'll bring up at the while you're doing that the double yellow line controversy came back, because we can't have a NASCAR season start without something for everyone to complain about.
Wouldn't be NASCAR without it.
Nope. So what do you think about the yellow line rule? stay, go, change?
Keep it still. Now there's chances, there's times when a driver gets clearly put in a situation he can't get out of, and you're not going to have him risk wrecking the field just to get out of it. But there's things where you look back to bad situations like 2008 when we first had to really talk about this with Regan Smith taking the win from Tony Stewart. Yeah, it would have been great to see Regan Smith have won that Talladega race, but he clearly went down there to get the advantage, and obviously that was a no-no.
Yeah, my take is a little different on it. I think if they're gonna change it, and if they do have to keep some portion of it, I say maybe keep it like with going into the corners, and like you on the straightaway you can go under the yellow line, just to sort of toe the line. But again, with a lot of NASCAR fans, they'll probably complain of it, not wanting it to change at all or wanting it to change all the way. But I think they can add it a little bit, because you look back and you see all these crazy things with Earnhardt or Gordon, and they're being forced under the yellow line, and they still manage to get up onto the track and save it. But at the same time, if you have a car that's way off the pace and they're going like 70 or something, about to go on pit road, and last thing you want is for a car going 200, 210 miles an hour to smash into the back of it.
Yeah, we don't want no Kevin LePage incidents.
Yeah, I wonder who would be the Kevin LePage nowadays to do that.
Oh gosh, Gray Galding.
Yeah, or Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie manages to find the wall one way or another.
Yeah,
but yeah, even Dale Jr.
I don't want to sound like offensive. I know I'm going to make somebody mad who probably is a Gray Galding fan, but I've never been. I don't know. I've never really been able to get behind him for some reason.
He just like sort of popped up for me, because at the same, like, I'll notice some of the smaller drivers are the ones coming up, but at the same time, when you're focused on one main driver, or you're focused on just like the point situation, you sort of don't notice some of these guys, and then all of a sudden you start hearing like Gray Galding or Corey LaJoie or one of them, and it's like
the thing with Galding, in my opinion, he skipped way too many steps.
Yeah, wasn't he at K&N at one point? And then
when I first heard him, he was going good. He had something with I think it might have been Gibbs. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was with Krispy Kreme. Good sponsorship. You hadn't seen Krispy Kreme for anybody else. And then next thing you know, he's got a nationwide series ride with Roush Fenway. Hey, that's cool. Making a few strides there, but it was only like a few races, and didn't really do much with it. And next thing I knew, suddenly there's no Krispy Kreme sponsorship no more. And next thing I know, he's a Cup Series driver. What the heck? You didn't even do a full season of trucks or Xfinity. Now you're a Cup Series driver.
Think maybe somebody's money in the background might have been helping out with that. Maybe a family member or something.
All I know is he hurt himself the most just by believing in BK Racing. And they even had documented things where there's beef between the two parties, but he's still down there at Daytona, I reckon, with him. And that's a team that was supposed to have gone bankrupt, apparently, but apparently they're still there.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of these people just sort of they come up and they have no experience whatsoever. I think a lot of them get hurried up, I've noticed. So like that was like Joey Logano's biggest problem back, when he came in around 2009, is he just got forced in there way too quick. He got put in, like he had to replace a superstar, a Tony Stewart.
Well, so at that time, who did they have besides Logano? I mean, who was really in a situation to bring up besides him? Because I mean, we were talking earlier. I said William Byron, the best decision he ever made was leaving the KBM Joe Gibbs program to go to Hendrick, because, in my opinion, if he had stuck with that path, he wouldn't have been the Xfinity Series champion last year. He wouldn't be in the Cup Series right now. He would maybe be on a part-time schedule in the Xfinity Series at this point, and that's me being honest, because of the fact that they now have so much talent. But back then, I don't think that they had as much development going on with other drivers.
No, they were really the first ones to start it up, like in the early tens or teens or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, at that point they really didn't have anybody because I know they had
Yeah.
like Brandon Ash run a few races, but I mean, they're not going to bring him up to replace Tony Stewart and
Matt
I,
DiBenedetto maybe would have been another choice.
maybe, but I mean, he doesn't really, and even now he doesn't really have the ability to sort of draw in bigger sponsors or keep bigger sponsors like Logano does, especially with. Well, I mean, Logano
really
got
hard.
talked up. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
It's really hard looking back to like 2009.
Yeah.
Matt DiBenedetto was a Joe Gibbs driver. Really? That seems like it's been, that's been so long ago now. That's been like 9 years.
And he had at the time he didn't have any of like the media presence. Like now he's sort of like one of those sort of like how in movies they have like cult following movies and they have people who they're popular but they're not popular enough that everyone knows who they are. That's sort of what DiBenedetto became after he finished that top 10 at Bristol.
Right.
But he still doesn't have that star power,
Yeah, but he's been working harder to build up his presence and I mentioned something earlier. Ty Dillon recently started a YouTube channel. They actually put up their first video on the channel yesterday. Actually, it was a vlog from the I guess the weekend, and I'm on my blank. Anyway, they had a vlog from the weekend. Sorry, I got a text message on my phone. I was looking at it. Mine went blank. But anyways, they started up a YouTube channel, put up their first vlog from the Daytona weekend, and he said in his video, he's doing this to kind of connect, like allow fans to connect more with younger drivers, because a lot of people have this thing like, well, Daddy's money just bought them that ride, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. I've been guilty of saying that before.
I mean, we were just dogging on Gray Galding a little bit, so I feel hypocritical saying that. But
well, Ty Dillon's shown talent though.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to win the Coke Zero 400 last year.
Oh, I did too.
But he's doing that, and definitely a very good idea, and it allows him to connect more with some of his current following and grow more of a following that way. Same thing me and you are doing with our YouTube channels here. We're trying to connect NASCAR to more of a younger generation.
Yeah, and I think that's something that they really need right now, especially with how the last 10 to 15 years have gone. They really fell behind. They like blew up, and then they're like, okay, we got it figured out, but they didn't really change much. And now I think that's why they did a lot of those changes through the 2000s and with the chase and whatnot, is because they were trying to catch up. They tried hitting a 6-run homer, and they kept striking out.
Right. I'm gonna let you take lead on this for a minute, just so I can respond to a message here real fast on my phone, and then I'll jump back in here.
Okay. I'll switch gears here to the off-season, some of the off-season rule changes. So there's a lot of them on pit road, like how pit crews were reduced from 6 to 5 members. Then they also have standardized air guns now instead of how the teams kept developing them. Because I remember a lot of the stuff the last few years is how Joe Gibbs Racing just is ahead of the game with it, and Toyota is just ahead of the game with a lot of the stuff on pit road. Then the fueler, he can't do anything but fuel the car now. So it's basically just 4 people doing what 6 were doing last year, which will make it that much tougher. And then they did a rule change. I'm going to call this the Matt Kenseth rule. Too many over the wall now. You don't get parked, but you get a 2-lap penalty. And I think they only changed that because of what happened to Matt Kenseth at Kansas last year. So of any of those, what do you think will be the biggest change? Because for me, I think the reduction of the pit crew and making the 4-tire stops longer is really going to come into play with a lot of fuel mileage races. Because when they have to do like 4-tire or 2-tire stops, there's going to be such a difference in time where, a 4-tire stop now will be between 15 and 18 seconds, where it used to be like 11 or 12. And the 2-tire stops will still probably be around 6 seconds. So there's like an extra 4 or 5 seconds, on the track that is going to be a difference. I think that might be something that comes into play at like Charlotte or Kansas or Chicagoland this year. It might make him a little more interesting. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I think it's going to be that new pit rule of only being able to have limited number of guys going over the wall is going to be a big change for them. And you mentioned it being like the Matt Kenseth rule, and I think you hit the nail on the hammer right there. And if I was Matt Kenseth, I would be mad and like wanting to go back in time, big time. Obviously, he can't do that, but you know he's got to be pretty upset about that.
Yeah, he got screwed over pretty bad that race, and I at the start of the season last year when they made all these changes, I'm still not a fan of the 5 minute clock and the too many over the wall rule, like being parked. And but before the season, I'd been looking at him and I'm like, this is going to come into play at the worst possible time. And it's going to be the worst possible story because that seems to be what NASCAR does best with their rules changes. And sure enough, at Kansas with that thing with Matt Kenseth, that came in at the worst possible time. So I think it's a good change. I still think that they should be more lax on a lot of the rules on pit road, like how like the too many boxes going through too many boxes rule. It's like, you know, I, I feel like they're changing stuff for the sake of changing it, but at least with the 6 to 5 members, I think originally that's to reduce costs, but I think this season they might accidentally hit a real gem with that one. So I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. But you said the 5 minute crash clock. It's actually not a 6 minute crash clock.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think it sort of evens out with less people being able to work on the car.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I don't think an extra minute's gonna make a difference. If your car is messed up, it's messed up.
yeah, yeah, it's that's pretty much cut and dry with that stuff. Also the other big change with rules is it's sort of not a rule, but a manufacturer changing stuff is the new Camaro this year. Looks pretty sharp and it looks pretty racy so far. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
I think it's awesome. I think it's gonna be fast, even though I've been criticized to three ways of Sunday about it and how I think it's gonna be performing well. But you know what? Fact of the matter is Chevy's always done good. Chevy's not gonna just suddenly suck all of a sudden.
Yeah, they were a little off the last 2 or 3 years, really, when Toyota started coming on. But like we were saying
Well,
earlier, it's just they find a way. They always manage to find a way to get competitive.
I'll say this: Hendrick was off a little bit, but Ganassi stepped up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And even then, Richard Childress, they was able to get a win last year with Ryan Newman and Austin Dillon.
Hmm. I know. So there a lot of them would get wins, but then like their um, like top fives and top tens would also be really down. But I think that I sort of think wherever Hendrick goes with it, it sort of drives the ship for Chevy because that's just sort of their flagship team. It's kind of like how Gibbs and Toyota is. But yeah, I think they're going to be really really strong this year if they can keep this going. If they can, take this momentum they've got and the stuff they got in testing and just sort of run with it, kind of like how Toyota did in the middle of 2015.
Right. Quick question here. Furniture Row Racing, they won a championship last year. That's a team that used to start and park. I
Yeah.
mean, do you see any team that could possibly become the new Furniture Row just suddenly step up their game big time?
I don't know.
Myself, I'm kind of wondering if Levine Family Racing would just switch over to the new Camaros and getting Casey Kane on board, if that could help at all.
It
I don't.
might.
I'm not necessarily sure if Casey's going to win this season, but if he sticks around a couple years and they get that program going in a new direction, it could be something for them.
I think a lot of it today, I think, especially with the, what do you call them, the charters, I think that now more than ever, they need to get someone who can draw in sponsors, whether it be, a veteran on his way out or maybe someone young. Uh, I think,
Well, even then, Premium Motorsports, they was smart by getting Danica Patrick because even if she crashes in a race, she still brought money to them.
yeah, I think they saw that with the publicity, but I
Yeah.
think for more of a a long-term thing. I think they can definitely be more like last year. I noticed they were in the top 20 a lot, and sometimes they get wrecked out, sometimes they have something bad luck or whatnot. But they were like in that 15th to 21st range in a lot of races this past year. So with someone like Casey Kane, I think he has around the same sort of skill as a Michael McDowell. Just Michael McDowell never got to be long term in a good position, but I think they can keep this trending up. I think if there's any team that can bowl a furniture row, it's Levine Family Racing.
Yeah, you talk about Michael McDowell. He was originally one of the original ones with Michael Waltrip Racing when they come on board. And I don't want to say it's a bad way about the two, but I wonder if things could have been different with Michael Waltrip Racing if Michael and Dale Jarrett hadn't have, been racing like as long into their careers as they were. Maybe Michael could have been around a little bit longer, but Dale Jarrett, he was only there for one season and then a couple of races in 2008. Would it have been better to focus more on future drivers like David Rudiman and Michael McDowell in the beginning?
Totally. Because I think you see, I think you've seen the past few years with like Tony Stewart and Dale Jr. is that these veterans are really good for a long time, but there just comes a point, whether it be with Junior with concussions or Stewart with the stuff off the track, or just like Dale Jarrett, just sort of gassed out in his career, and Michael Waltrip never really that successful to begin with.
You brought up Tony Stewart, and when he started Stewart Haas Racing in 2009, he started off with two cars, him and Ryan Newman. I think that was probably the best thing he could have done to start with as compared to Michael Waltrip and what he started in 2007. Because, Michael and Dale, they were way past their prime.
Totally, yeah.
But with Tony and Ryan, well, obviously, there's, Ryan, he's still winning races from time to time. Tony, obviously, he won a championship only a few years after starting the team. I think that was the best thing to just keep two veterans. Whereas I think if Michael Waltrip maybe had focused more on his younger drivers, the team might even still be around today if they had put more focus into the future early on.
Well, and even if they'd got someone like Bobby Labonte at the time, he still had something left in the tank. It's just, I think they tried to jump on it too fast, too soon. I think they should have, because Stewart Haas also had that alliance with Hendrick, where I don't remember if Michael Waltrip Racing had an alliance with anyone for a while. They might have had one with Gibbs once Gibbs jumped on, but that first year or so, I think they were pretty much on their own, and it really showed.
No, even then, I don't think they were aligned with Gibbs because, Gibbs come on to get their own Toyota program because, originally when Toyota come on, what was it? It was just Michael Waltrip and Red Bull? Was that it?
I think and Jeremy Mayfield too.
Yeah, the 22 Caterpillar car. That was about it on the Toyota side.
And they were about the best ones of any of them. I think Blaney got a top 5, like the first top 5 for Toyota.
There was the 96 DLP car. I think he switched to Toyota in 2008, though.
Yeah, I think, was that with Yaley or Tony Raines? One of those two. I always mix up what years they ran.
Kind of a combination between the two.
Yeah.
It's funny they would usually run pretty well in NASCAR 08 the game, but not so good on the actual track.
Yeah. It's like playing NASCAR Thunder and somehow Kevin LePage is up there.
Oh, yeah.
So we got pretty much through the big changes.
We're getting a little off topic at times, but we're keeping good conversation flow here.
Yeah, still having some fun with it. Maybe shift over to the TV ratings. They were reported in the overnight. So this is all according to Adam Stern. The Daytona 500 qualifying earned a 4.1 overnight rating, which is flat with 2017. But this is also minus a returning Dale Jr. after a half season. And then the big one is that the Clash earned a 1.35 overnight rating, which is up 29% from the 1.05 they had last year.
But yeah, if you go back and watch it, there's a clear drop in the people actually in the stands. So
yeah,
no butts in the seats, but plenty of butts on the couches watching.
Yeah, the attendance is. People always say that the attendance doesn't matter as much, and it doesn't matter as much as TV ratings, but it does matter if not to make the tracks money, just the look of it. Because I mean, you can have the best race ever, but if there's nobody watching in the stands, to a new viewer who's never watched racing before, or, is just sort of getting into NASCAR, they're gonna be like, well, if this is it, if no one's watching, like, why should I? I mean, you see it, because for a lot of American sports fans in particular, you see bad teams have really bad attendance. You see people like the Cleveland Browns or the Detroit Pistons, and so I think that sort of mindset is why NASCAR needs to work on the attendance issue too, especially if TV ratings start going up again. They need to definitely get that visual problem out.
Right. And then I think as us fans, we don't need to have the attitude like, oh, Dale Jr.'s gone. I'm never watching NASCAR again.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to be like that. And I know Super Speedway is like, oh, that's Dale Jr.'s playground. He's got probably the best chance of anybody to win. In reality, he only won the Daytona 500 2 times, which, hey, that's more times than his dad, at least. So,
which to say you've done something more than the Intimidator and it's a good thing, that's impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think this is something they need. And I think that NASCAR needs to build off this. That a lot of the years I've noticed they'll get like a lot of the years like 2008, I've looked back, or like 2012, like they'll have this race or they'll have a few races where they have a lot of fans jumping on and they're watching. And then something like, an off weekend after the second race or an Easter break or a few bad races, and all that momentum dies, and the rest of the season TV rating wise is in the tank. And I think fans should be who are going to watch no matter what should be interested and want the TV rating to get better, not just so the sport gets better, but for the fact that this affects the fans at home, how easily you'll be able to see the race, how the TV networks, how much money they'll put into it. If they're not going to get anything in return, they're not going to give you a good product. So, I think this is something that NASCAR needs to, more than they have the past few years, really focus on and really get everything in a row for the season and keep that momentum going.
Right. I think you're right on that. And I want to touch on something here, a comment that Kyle Busch made over the offseason, how NASCAR seemed like they wanted to push more of the younger drivers. And he said he didn't think that was a good idea, seeing how most of them don't have any accomplishments. Well, I don't know if you should be saying that, because at one point you were like that, Kyle.
Yeah, I remember Darrell Waltrip before, like in his rookie year, was saying how Kyle Busch is the best thing since sliced bread. And heck, even Joey Logano, they nicknamed sliced bread. And, he might have started off slow. Both of them started off their rookie years pretty slow, but now they're some of the, biggest names in the sport. So
I mean, it took Logano until he got away from Gibbs to actually come out of his shell.
Yeah, and I think Keselowski won a title in 2012 with Penske, but the other team always was subpar. They were Kurt Busch made the chase, but he wasn't a factor. But I really think Logano being added there and having those two young drivers, that really was the reason that Penske sort of came back. Because remember, there were a few years there where Penske was just sort of an afterthought. They were about the same level as 2008, 2009 that DEI was at.
Right. So. And you talk about Keselowski. He went over to Penske in 2010. 2010 was not a impressive year for him. He didn't. But the most notable thing in 2010 for him was getting flipped at Atlanta.
I remember that. Yeah.
Well, he won the Nationwide Series championship.
But cup-wise, most people don't remember that.
I think, he was on the Hendrick path. And in my opinion, the only thing that stopped him from going full-time with Hendrick in 2010 was Mark Martin's breakout year. If Mark Martin hadn't performed at the level he was at, winning 5 races in 2009, we would see Brad Keselowski maybe even on Hendrick today.
Yeah, Mark Martin that year, because I'm a big Vikings fan. He reminded me how Favre was that year. It's like where it's just the last effort to win it all, and if not, you saw how Martin was after that. He was 13th to 18th place driver the rest of his career, with a
Right.
few shining moments at MWR. But yeah,
You gave him one last chance to go at it full time, and he made the most of it. And it makes me wonder, Mark Martin, what he actually technically he retired after 2006, correct?
I think he always I think he said he
Like
did, but he always
that
said he's like it wasn't full time. He'd always use that asterisk with it.
he even had like a send off for him and stuff.
Yeah, they gave him like rocking chairs. I remember that.
But like 2007, he almost won Daytona 500. He ran a few other races. 2008, he ran a limited schedule driving, I think, Dale Jr.'s old ride to number 8.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Because he had a few top fives with that. Um,
And
but
then out of nowhere, they're like, Casey Mears, you're out. And Mark Martin, you're driving the 5 car.
yeah. But circling back to what you said about the young guns and Kyle Busch, I NASCAR has this problem where they get somebody, and no matter what they do, they stick with him. Like I was big Dale Jr. fan, still am, but he he wasn't the superstar in terms of results consistently every year that everyone wanted him to be. He wasn't his dad, he was his own guy, but they sort of they stuck with him as the face of the sport. Like the year he ran like 20th or 25th in points, he's and you
Yeah.
see commercials, he's the front face of it.
Later 2008 to early 2012, those were hard years to watch.
Oh yeah, yeah. It made it worth it.
That was very hard to watch.
But yeah, so I think that they should be pushing these guys. I think they should push guys like with a lot of personality off the track, and they should encourage them to have their personality on the track. Guys like Blaney, Bubba Wallace, he's an awesome personality. Any interview you have with him has the
Yeah.
opportunity to be really fun.
If Bubba can get up there and present himself with the same charisma he does when he's playing the drums and stuff, he'll be a superstar in the makings for sure.
Oh, totally. And then you got you got more laid back people that are really cool too, like Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. And
And
Elliott has his name too that helps him.
and Ryan Blaney is very chill. Like I've actually had him on my Snapchat for like a long time, and every now and again I'll send something and I might get like a response back. Like he don't care. He'll just send something back every now and again.
Yeah, and I remember he made a bunch of news for social media because he met Daisy Ridley, who plays Rey in Star Wars, and I didn't realize how
Yeah.
short I didn't realize how short Ryan Blaney was when he was basically standing eye level with Daisy Ridley, who was like 5'4".
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I think they should be pushing these young guys, and I think that'll
I
help.
mean, they're the future.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really bank on someone who's probably only going to be good another 5 or 6 years to
I
be
mean,
your 20-year franchise.
let's be honest here. Jimmy Johnson, he's got 4 or 5 more years max.
Yeah, I think his tank's starting to run out really,
Um,
really bad.
Kurt Busch, I don't know if he'll make it past this year, honestly. And
Yeah,
and maybe before that, if I told myself that, I'd think, oh, you're crazy. He can go out. But then you say people like Greg Biffle, Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards suddenly have no ride. Carl Edwards only started racing in the Cup Series in 2006, and he's already done. I
yeah.
mean, seriously? Where's everything going? And it
And-
actually makes me worry about these younger drivers. Like, how many years do they actually have?
Well, and Dale Jr. brought up a good point last year, and I know it got Kevin Harvick pretty mad at him, and that's why those comments he said last year happened. But that owners nowadays are looking for people who are good for sponsors because sponsorship is so thin, but also people
All
who,
about some of this.
yeah, people who don't cost a lot of money. Why spend, $20 million a year or 10 million a year or however many you're paying to Matt Kenseth when you can get Eric Jones for like 800,000 a year? I mean, it
Right.
just, business wise makes sense.
Well, I think of it like this. People are changing in their value. Like I'm a NASCAR diecast collector. Chase Elliott, his diecast when they're autographed a couple of years ago, even though he's an Elliott, you could still get those autographed for maybe like 50, $60 on eBay. Now I've already seen things. Somebody's trying. I don't think they're actually going to sell it, but somebody had an autographed Chase Elliott 2018 diecast for $200 on eBay.
Damn.
Just because they feel like it is elevated that much in the value on them now.
The value of a name, right?
I mean, to be honest,
I like him though. Don't get me wrong. I like him.
I think he's going to be very good. He's definitely going to probably win a championship.
Yeah.
At some point in his career.
He's just got to get some luck.
As far as marketability, he's me and your generation's Dale Jr.
Totally. Yeah. I think in outside of the car though, he doesn't have like, he's really calm and he's a really likable person, but at the same time he doesn't have that sort of charisma. It's like when Dale Jr. came up, he sort of had that like, sort of Southern hip hop partying guy vibe to him, and everyone sort of wanted to be like him kind of thing.
I put up something the other day on my channel, the 5 cutest couples in NASCAR, and I compared Dale Jr. to being like Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the day, slamming beers, flipping people off, and that's how it kind of like how he was like in his early days in NASCAR. And then there's a picture of Stone Cold Steve Austin now, just like sitting out back, sipping wine, looking all relaxed, and that's kind of more like how Dale, especially when he met Amy.
Oh yeah, people forget because people, I've always heard people be like, yeah, Dale Jr. has no personality; he's just here his name. But it's like, no, it's like back, in the early DEI days, like, there was like that time he was wearing that do-rag for a while because he, cut his head open jumping at the shallow end of a pool, and he's,
Right.
partying every night. And there's like stories where he'd be showing up an hour late to practice hungover because he was partying all night.
Yep.
People forget he was just like any other person that age at that point, and he definitely had the charisma. It's just sort of once the results started going down, I think the confidence did, and then he sort of just became more, went more into his shell then.
Right. And I think that was a big problem for him from 2009 to 11 ish.
Yeah, about middle of the season that year.
I think his relationship was still very early with Amy at that point, so it wasn't even like she was helping him in a big way at that point. He went with Lance McGrew there for a little bit.
Yeah,
though that was some bad years.
Yeah, but I mean,
to be fair, they almost won Michigan in 2009, but they come up a little bit short playing the field game to Brian Vickers.
Yeah, that was I actually, because at that point I was like, I think 12 or 13. I think I was like 12 at the time. And,
people are gonna hate us. This is turning into Dale Jr.'s greatest moments right here.
Yeah, no regrets. No, no, I didn't. I actually didn't even see that race until I got home because I was just doing something else, and I kind of figured out he's just gonna crash, whatever. But
he comes close. I think he was only like a second behind there at the end.
Yeah, it was pretty fun to watch him come up there. But we probably should switch to a different topic really quick.
Yeah,
so
let's move on.
How about something coming up in the future? The 2018 500. So I was looking at some of the stuff, like some of the neat information and whatnot. So it's the 60th running, which is astounding because it's like yesterday the 50th running with 2008 was on. It'll be broadcast on Fox, on the local Fox station, and then MRN radio along with the Fox Sports Go app. It's at 2:30 Eastern time. The first stage is 60 laps, second stage 60 laps, and then a final 80 lap stage for 200 total laps. I looked at the weather forecast, mostly sunny, 77 degrees, 10% chance of rain, but it gets less through the day, and 80% humidity with little to no wind. So about as perfect as you can want for a race.
I hope it's like that in Atlanta for me.
Yeah, I hope it is for you too. I think with this, it's going to be a lot like the Clash. It's going to be really slick, and I think that with more cars and more turbulent air going through the draft, you're going to see a lot of, like tonight with the one car spins, except there's going to be a lot more cars. So I'm thinking there's going to be a really big wreck around 20 or 30
Bold,
laps in.
bold prediction, big one by lap 15.
I could see it totally. I could see it.
Like taking out like 15 cars.
Yeah, I think it's going to be someone who ran good during the duel at night when the track had more grip, and now with it being so greasy and so slick, I could see one of those guys up in the top 10 or so who shouldn't be up there.
Now, what's going to be interesting to me is these cars are so low to the ground. We haven't seen this yet in speed weeks. Is any car is going to get off the ground potentially and flip over? That'll be something big because we've seen that in the past. What was it? Last year at Talladega, we had Chase Elliott got airborne, and then AJ Allmendinger got flipped over.
Same wreck too.
Yeah, same wreck. And I can't remember if there was any other big flips besides that one.
Larson at the Daytona race.
That one was weird how it happened. It just like suddenly hopped or something like that.
Yeah, it's like when you're a kid and you're playing with matchbox cars, and you just sort of put them together and one of them just pops up. That's how it looked.
It was a weird crash. I'm sure he didn't like it, but
no, it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could totally see there being a big flip. I hope there's not like an Austin Dillon, Kyle Larson type flip.
That's still scary. Even though he survived, it's still scary.
Yeah, I don't know. At this point, I think that the 500 in particular, they haven't had one of those big scary flip wrecks, for so long. Because when was the last one that really? The last one I can remember like that was like Michael Waltrip in 2004. There might have been some other ones.
Yeah, the only as far as Daytona 500 weekend goes, it wasn't named the Daytona 500, but I know 2010 Dale Jr. had a pretty bad flip in the Nationwide Series race.
Yeah, but I think that there's going to probably be, if not one going really far airborne, someone's going to get lifted off the ground, because it seems like when these cars get backwards, even with them so low to the ground, just enough air gets underneath it. The only way I think they can prevent that is if they basically have it as flat to the ground as the front. But
even then, you break down the way that the flip at Talladega happened last year. I remember Elliott got a little bit off the ground, and then I think the only reason that Allmendinger really flipped because I think he was sideways, Logano was sideways, and then all of a sudden the 34 of Castle, I think, hits Logano. Well, that's enough to actually push the 22 and the 47 together a little bit, and they actually both come off the ground a little bit. But where Logano he's got that sudden forward momentum, but his car is at a point where it's getting pushed more to the right. It balances him out more, but that energy knocks the 47 left, and he's already sliding forward, so that's really what brought him on over.
Yeah, thinking back to it, it was a really awkward wreck. Like, it was just sort of like slow motion. It was like that one with Kyle Busch a few years ago, where he's just like sitting there sort of skidding, and then all of a sudden he's on his side.
That was just a standard wreck, and Kyle, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, it's like, that's odd. But yeah, I think that this will probably be the best 500 in a long time. I thought that last year's was, for being the Demolition Derby, it was still pretty entertaining. But I think this all around could be one of the best ever.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's do something here. 3 picks for winning the 500. 1 is a logical choice. 2 is a sentimental favorite to you. 3 is a dark horse.
Okay, logical pick, Denny Hamlin. Just because I think at this point, with Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon gone, he's the best plate racer out there. I mean, you could argue also Brad Keselowski, but I'll put, for Daytona, I'll put my money on Hamlin. Sentimental, I want Bubba to win. He's just a really likable guy, and following him going through and seeing how he's made his way up, I want to see Bubba win. And then the dark horse, who I think is going to be long term one of the best restrictor plate racers, Daniel Suarez. He last year at Daytona in the summer race, he reminded me a lot of like Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, Dale Jr. with how he was ducking in and out of the draft, how he would enter the corner a little higher than everybody else. I just think he needs a little experience under his belt, but I think he could easily, win 2 or 3 of the plate races this year.
And even then, he ran very well at the Talladega race last year.
Yeah. I think wasn't he in one of those last wrecks when there was like only 5 cars or 10 cars left and he was going for the lead?
He was, because I think he was blocking on Elliott, I think, and that's what really started their crash.
Yeah, and people don't look at him the same way people didn't look at Kurt Busch. It was like Kurt Busch for the longest time. He was excellent at the plate races. It's like if you look at Talladega and Daytona, it's like if you look from about 2001 through now, Kurt Busch is in the top 10 or the top 5 of a good amount of those races, and no one noticed him until he won the 500.
Right.
I really think Daniel Suarez is the next great restrictor plate racer.
I could say it, but really you could say it about a lot of people, honestly.
Yeah, you could. So what do you got for logical, sentimental, and dark horse?
Logical, I've got, in my predictions video, I predicted Martin Truex Jr., but if I really have to actually be logical, I got to say Brad Keselowski. He won the Clash, he won Talladega. The only thing eluding him is a Daytona 500 victory. He's got everything else. He's won a championship. He just needs a Daytona 500. And it could easily be possible for him to do it. Ford's, I don't say Ford doing as well on the regular tracks this season, but they do still have a really good super speedway program. They won all 4 races last year. Now, my sentimental favorite, it's a tie. I'm a Bowman fan. He's on the pole. Why can't the 88 go back to victory lane at Daytona for new driver? But also, Chase Elliott just needs to get a win, man. Silence the haters for crying out loud. Dark horse, she's only got one more chance. Danica Patrick.
Okay.
Shut him up. Shut him up, Danica. Shut me up. I've been down.
Yeah, I will fully admit if she wins that we
won't hear it for months. We won't stop hearing it for months, I'm sure.
No, we'll be like, we'll hear it in our sleep. Darrell Waltrip will be all over the place. He'll be taping posters of her winning the 500 if she wins it.
Yeah, that the end of the 2001 Daytona 500, he's like Mikey. He'll be like Danica.
Oh my gosh, I like just for that I want her to wreck, just so I don't have to hear Darrell Waltrip say something about it.
I don't want her to wreck, and honestly, it's because of the fact that if she does, they're going to have to get her interview, and it's going to take up the time during the actual race, and the race will be like 3 inches on the screen.
Yeah, good point. So I think that about covers most stuff. Is there anything extra that you've seen through this week or whatnot that's pretty cool? There's a few things I saw. So
I think we still just got a lot of preseason jitters we need to get out of everybody's system and just get this season going.
Yeah, I did see something really cool on Twitter. So you know how Martinsville has the famous hot dog, and I've had it before. It's worth it.
We went back in we went back in October. I was there for the Chase Elliott Denny Hamlin thing. Maddest I've ever been in a race, but I think I had like 3 hot dogs there. They're addicting, and they're only $2 each.
Yeah. Well, they're going to be on sale at the 2018 Daytona 500 this weekend.
My fiance was talking about that. That's actually pretty neat. So, I think they're part of the same organization.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're both owned by the France family, and I'll be honest, that's an incentive to go to the race. If anyone who's had those hot dogs knows, they're worth it.
A lot of people in Florida can't drive to little small Martinsville, and Martinsville is not a big place. It's very small, just in the middle of nowhere.
No, I told my parents because that was my present for my 18th birthday was going to Martinsville, and I got to see Gordon's last win, and that was pretty awesome. But one thing that I sort of equated it to is it feels like a high school football stadium where it's just that at-home vibe, and it's kind of like when you go to Wrigley Field. I've been there, and it's like, everyone's cool. It seems to be cool with each other. Everyone's having fun. You might hear a little trash talk back and forth, but it's something that's missing from a lot of modern day sports. It's just that at-home feel to it.
And what's actually cool about Martinsville is if you ever go there, right at the exit of turn 4, you can see into the track without actually being in there. Did you know that?
Yeah, when we were before the race, Clint Boyer had just drove up right out of the infield. He'd done something there and he was doing something else. And it's like you can see like a good 40% of the track from like a few hundred feet away on the hill.
They did qualifying the morning of the race that we went to, and we just sat there and we watched the qualifying from the outside of the track pretty much.
And you can see everything. That's what's so awesome about it is no matter where you're sitting, there's no bad seat.
Bristol is the closest track to me. It's about a 2-hour drive for me. But honestly, I think the view between Martinsville and Bristol, Martinsville gives a better racing viewing experience. Because at Bristol, the turns are banked more. So there's a certain part that's going to be in front of if you're in a turn that you're going to actually miss a lot of.
And one other good thing about Martinsville, too, is I don't think I've ever seen a race at Martinsville that I haven't been satisfied with at the end. I might have been upset because my favorite driver didn't win, but the race itself was incredibly good.
I think it's the track itself challenges people a lot more.
Maybe the flatter banked turns and the concrete and just maybe harder on the brakes, too. So I think it takes... I won't say it takes more talent, but I think it takes more finesse at those where like, because it's like, it seems like, gosh,
man, you're gonna make me want to go back to Martinsville.
I want to go back to Martinsville. I saw that they're charging a lot less now for tickets too. So now I really want to go back to Martinsville because I can afford it.
Yeah. I'm still thinking about it. I might even potentially want to take my dad and just go to a truck series race there sometime.
Oh, the truck race there is pretty good too. I forgot who won. I think Crafton won the race I went to.
Yeah, Noah Gregson won the last one there. And then Chase Elliott won the one in the spring.
Nice. So I think that pretty much wraps up everything we got. Do you want to say where to follow you and whatnot?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, DannyBTalks. YouTube's probably your best one to follow me on. That's where I'm most active on. Facebook and Twitter, you'll just get notifications really when videos go up. This thing right here, this is live stream on the Iceberg's channel here. And actually, I'm going to be basically taking the footage and redistributing it back over to my channel most likely. And I'm going to leave, for people who are watching my version of this, I'm going to leave a link in the description below on where to go follow the Iceberg.
And you can follow me on Twitter at IceTitan80. And you can subscribe to this channel. I don't really do too much other than that on social media. I've never been a big one on social media, but yeah, I will leave links to his channel and social media in the description. It might be tomorrow when I leave it, just because I gotta get some stuff done tonight and study for some stuff. But yeah,
it's probably it might even be Saturday by the time I put this up because I've got a video I've got to edit tomorrow.
Yeah. So make sure that you like it, subscribe to it. If you're watching after the fact, make sure that you leave a like. It helps it and the algorithm move up. And well, we'll see you next week. Let's hope the race is good.
Yep. Well, we'll try and figure out something to talk about the Daytona 500. Now, I know after Atlanta, I won't be able to because I'm going to Atlanta and I'll have a lot of vlog video to cover and edit on that one.
That should be pretty fun to watch, and I'll be sure to watch it. So,
all right. Well, I hope everyone's enjoyed this first podcast live stream kind of thing. Probably really long, but if you're like me, you like to edit your videos, or some people like to play games or something like that, turn on a live stream. It's fun to watch.